Hi lovely people, welcome back to Andertons TV with me, Gabriella Jones, and today we are at the Gibson Garage in London on East Castle Street, if you want the specific address for the sat-nav so that you can come yourself. And I'm with the wonderful James Bay. So thank you so much for joining us. You're a bit of a regular here, aren't you?
Lately, yeah. You know, they opened up, I saw the one in Nashville in 2023. Got very excited about being in there, and they said, you know, we're opening a London one. So since they did, I think was that the opening? I think I was here for the opening. But
yes.
Yeah, it was...
with Jimmy Page.
Of course, sorry, I
Tony
forget.
Iommi,
I've been here
a few
times.
up-and-comers.
Yeah, I've been here a few times, and I know the Gibson gang well, and they're great people. So yes, I just about know my way around when I'm not sort of too awestruck by what's hanging on the walls.
I know, and we've caught James kind of, I guess this is the calm before the storm, because you've got the new album coming out on the 4th of October.
Yes, I do.
You've got some lovely kind of intimate shows happening around the UK in October, and then February next year is the big tour.
Big UK tour, and it's my first, I'll do my first UK arena. I'm going to Wembley. And I've never played an arena in the UK before, so please buy tickets.
You need to come to Wembley.
Come to Wembley. Come to the other ones as well if you fancy it, but come to Wembley. So yeah,
that's
exciting.
Nice for people, sorry, because you can get the contrast of an intimate show and then also go to the big extravaganza.
Yeah, you know, and I think about that more and more, and I think, like, I did a couple of shows the last couple of weeks ago in a little basement of a great place called the Troubadour in London. There's a famous Troubadour in LA, and then there's the famous Troubadour in London. There's about 100 people for 3 nights, each night. And I love that setting and that way of sort of performing. I also love getting up with my band, and I've always talked about that, and like getting up on stage with the band and making a lot of noise. And I'm thinking about this tour next year and the Wembley show and everything, and the tour is the biggest that I've done for a while. And I'm thinking, you know, can I marry those two sort of dynamics in one show? I've tried in different ways over the years, and I'm sort of looking at exploring it again because I really love both, and it seems like my fans do too.
Well, have you seen anyone? Because when we're talking about this, I think about, I don't know if you went, the John Mayer solo tour.
I didn't see the solo tour.
It was interesting because obviously he's got the big songs and then he's like, right, I'm just going to strip it back. What's your kind of take on that?
I think it's a wonderful thing in many ways. And I think he mentioned that he'd sort of kind of threatened for a long time to do this like big venue, big crowd, just him thing, which I think as a fan of his music, it's certainly like an intriguing thing to check out because we all know, I certainly, you know, as a fan of his, like, love the moments, even on a sort of bigger sounding record like Continuum. Stop This Train is a wonderful solo moment. And but at this point, he's got a lot of sing-along songs. And I imagine that's what's sort of going on. He was already doing, when I saw him last in about 2019 in the O2 Arena, he already had that sort of big segment in the middle of the set where he was on his own. Yeah, I hope it was great. I don't know. Like I really liked getting that best of both worlds at his show when it was the whole band, and then the bit with him on his own.
Because this is what I'm imagining for you guys, and I was mentioning to Chris, lovely. He's not on camera at the minute, but he's lovely. That, you know, for people that have followed your music from the beginning, they will kind of want those pretty kind of close to intimate moments of like a really raspy voice, but then they're also going to be like, right, I want all of the production. I want like a bit of a synthy wild love moment.
Some
people want it all. You've got to deliver, James.
It's nice. No, I appreciate it. It's nice to have that sort of scope of sounds to kind of pick from. It's also, I'm really feeling it this time. It's a 4th album, so that's 4 albums worth of songs to choose from. And if I'm going to do a tour like I usually do and sort of play more or less night after night, it's hard to sing for more than like an hour and a half. So I've got to keep the set the same length, but try and sort of include more songs. And you know, there's this reality where people are excited to have a new album, but the people that come to your show are like, okay, give me some new bits, but give me all the stuff I know and love as well. Lots of artists' sort of excitement is to play new stuff.
What's one of the new songs that you're most excited to play?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, the way in which like Up All Night was like the first single and got like a really nice reaction makes me excited to play that live, because I feel like fans, even though it's a really new song in the grand scheme of all my music, I feel like they'll know it.
It's a proper earworm. They'll be able to sing it.
Thank you. And then there's a song called Talk with like there's a few big riffs on this album. There's some guitar solos, a song called Everburn with a big guitar solo on it. Yeah, so I'm excited for those ones because of the sort of guitar detail in them. And there's more of a sort of guitar detail, more obviously, on this album than ever before. But it's still like song first, which is always my sort of goal. And it's always been sort of, I've enjoyed my sort of relationship with doing that. It's never been easy because I want to just play.
Shred.
Kind of, yeah. But, you know, people, I recognised early enough, people like to hear me sing. They like to know, you know, they like a real like lyric. So, yeah, I'm trying to allow them that, of course, but just sort of slide more and more sort of shredding in if I can.
Well, I think that's an interesting point that hopefully our viewers will, you know, want to kind of dive into, because there'll be a lot of people watching this that are shredding.
Sure.
And
like double-handed tapping, I'm sure.
Yes.
Of course.
But maybe they're kind of like looking within themselves or outwardly, like for their song, like what's going to be their song.
Yeah.
What kind of tips would you give to people who have maybe started on guitar and they're like, right, I can solo anyone under the table, but they're kind of waiting for their little gimme shelter moment where they're writing a hit?
Good question. I was absolutely 13 years old in my bedroom trying to learn Master of Puppets and getting into it and learning, you know, all of Slash's solos and being a Guns N' Roses fan and a sort of Motorhead fan, all those different like heavier rock stuff, like more typically kind of heavy rock sort of shred guitar music. And I don't know how conscious I was of this at the time, but if there's any sort of advice to give, it's pretty classic stuff. When I think about what I was doing, I was keeping my mind open and I was allowing myself, if I thought in that tribal way that for a month or 6 months I was like a sort of all black wearing like heavy rock guy, which I would have been, somewhere in the back of my mind I was always able to sort of transition to the next thing that I found myself into, which after a lot of that heavy stuff I was suddenly into like Van Morrison and Carole King and Joni Mitchell and James Taylor, and that was songs that was still an instrument so often. So try and, it's cool that music's tribal and we have our sort of lanes, but it actually is less tribal than ever before as far as like people seem to be allowed to like, you know, Stormzy and Fontaines DC and Guns N' Roses. And it seems to be a more open conversation in that way than ever before, which I think should help those that are like still shredding but thinking, I kind of like to like do a song as well that's less shreddy. It's like all right to keep an open mind, I think, is the thing, because I don't know that I was being told that all the time when I was moving in that direction, and I'm glad I sort of held on to it. I remember like after all that music as well, I found Coldplay's debut album, which has got Yellow on it, which has got this massive guitar riff that I just adore on an electric guitar and these big slamming drums and this beautiful lamenting lyric and song within it. And that and like John Mayer's music were great sort of combinations of the two. Great evidence that you could maybe do both.
Yeah, so if you're at home now and you're thinking, I'm playing the Ace of Spades over and over and over, I don't know where to go next, have a little think about, you know, taking that energy and sass that you have in what you're practicing, put it into it.
Yeah, the beauty is like something like YouTube where you can sort of just follow pictures of videos of guitars from like an Ace of Spades to like, who's this guy? And it's an acoustic guitar, or it's like Springsteen's a great transition thing, like because he's playing an acoustic or he's playing a telly and he's like rocking out, but it's all hanging on a song. The song is the main focus. So sorry, I sort of stole your thunder, but yes.
No, absolutely. Well, speaking of people like Springsteen and the guitar heroes that we know and love, I've got to ask you, because you have been involved in something that involves one of my heroes, which is Eric Clapton.
Oh, wow.
Talk to me about being invited to be involved in something that he's doing. I'm sure it's the dream for a lot of people that are watching.
I got a letter, not an email.
A proper letter.
I got a letter from Eric
Wax
asking.
stamp.
Almost, maybe. I wouldn't put it past him. To play something that was a real dream come true for me, to go and play in 2019, to go and play the Crossroads Festival, which I'd been, I was like 28, 29 in 2019. So I you know, it was nearly 20 years since I'd discovered that as a sort of 12, 13-year-old. I'd been sort of going through YouTube and found some bits and then got the DVDs and loved it. And he, by the way, is very much, you know, Layla is the riff that, like, you know, sparked my interest to want to play the guitar. I heard that and I sort of jumped out of my skin and sort of told my dad, I gotta find a guitar.
Do you remember where you were?
I was at home. So at my home that I grew up in, I was in my bedroom, sort of, which it was at the top of the stairs. It was the first door on the landing. My dad on a Saturday was doing something that he did less and less at that point, because my parents have always played they always played the radio in our house, but they put records on less and less, because I guess it's a whole thing. When you've got kids, it's like a whole, I'm just going to sit down, guys, and put a record on. No, you don't get the chance. But he put, it was Saturday morning, to my memory, and he put Layla on. He put, it wasn't Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs, the album. It was like a Eric Clapton sort of best of thing. And I heard that riff.
Was it the long version?
Yeah, it was the long version, but I was like...
Of course it was. It was the proper one.
I've like grown up and sort of matured into like loving the sort of back half of that record, but the whole piano sort of odyssey. But like, it was that opening riff. I ran downstairs as I was listening to it, stood in the living room, you know, awestruck, played it again when it finished, still awestruck, took it out the CD player, took it up to my room. My dad never saw it again. And in the meantime, I said, I've got to find a guitar and learn how to do that, because whatever that is,
I want that.
I want to be that. I want to do that. It was a big moment. So anyway, Eric Clapton, absolute hero of mine, always will be. His playing, his writing, his shows, and to have that sort of, to have received that recognition. You know, I remember playing the festival and being up at the end of the night on stage with him and Buddy Guy and Robert Cray and all these guys, and then at the end of the night, you know, he said, "Hey James, you know, keep in touch. So great. We really appreciate you being here." I couldn't believe my life.
You're like, I will keep in touch. I'm going to text you tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%.
And the day after that.
Yeah. No, it was unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'll never forget. And they put it on the DVD, you know, which is wild. Or DVD, they put it on Blind. They put it on the release for the 2019 Crossroads.
And that's such an interesting array of people for you to be placed in between. It's like people like Robert Cray.
Yeah.
Songs like Right Next Door, and you know,
loved all that when I was a kid.
Had such an amazing career, but also got that soulful element which you really, really have in your voice.
Thank you.
I'd love to talk a little bit about, on a personal note. So, I don't know if anyone cares about this, but it's important to people that are listening. So at my 21st birthday, we were playing over and over If You Ever Want to Be in Love.
No way!
And that was like the song when everyone had like had a little bit too much to drink. Like all the friends are there, moms, aunties, everyone was dancing around to that. And it's such a lovely moment.
Thank you.
And I wanted to know, what are some of those songs for you that stand out in your life where you think, yes.
Other people's songs?
Yeah.
Oh, good question. Old Love, which is a co-write between Robert Cray and Eric Clapton, is an absolute stunner. That like, so I know the Clapton record, the Unplugged record. I feel like I know every breath on that record. I know it so well. And I love. There's like a great version of that song on like 24 Nights. There's a few amazing live versions of Old Love. That song's a standout though. You know, between me and my brother and Tom, who is my oldest friend, and I've known him since I was 3, and he plays bass in my band.
Shout out, Tom.
Yeah, shout out. Us three would obsess over that at like 13 years old. A lot of our mates were like, "What are you listening to?" And we'd be like, "Have you heard Old Love on the Unplugged record?" So that's one for me, partly because there's like a Chuck Leavell piano solo in that.
I never knew that Robert Cray co-wrote that.
That's wonderful, isn't it? I think he did a few. I think he did a few with Eric Clapton, but that's definitely one for me. Wow, good question. Aretha Franklin's version of Bridge Over Troubled Water. I don't care that it's a cover. Like, I love the original. Don't get me wrong. And Paul Simon and Garfunkel, what a release. But like Paul Simon, one of the greatest songwriters in mine and so many people's opinions. But Aretha Franklin, that really is one of the most inspiring pieces of music, like her vocal delivery for me, that there is. You know, it inspires me as a guitar player, as far as sort of lead stuff, but it inspires me as a singer. I like to say that her vocal and her singing is my biggest sort of singing inspiration, because you're never going to sound like the thing you're inspired by, because you're not that thing. Mm-hmm. But you've got to try. That's what you've got to have a thing that's going to sort of take you closer. And she's like that.
The warmth of her voice and her vibrato is something that is universal, because you know you can feel it in a guitar when someone's doing it. It's like that warmth is something that you can find in other things.
Yeah, definitely. The technical ability that she has is detectable, sure, but I don't believe she's thinking about any of it. I think she's just delivering. It's
just coming from within.
Yeah, 100%. And I read that and that resonates so much. So her version of that is definitely an answer to your question as well. It's an odyssey in its own way as well. It kind of goes on. I really don't mind like longer. You know, I always think about Freebird, Lynyrd Skynyrd Freebird. Like I adore that record. And I enjoy, being where I'm at as somebody who makes the music I make. And I'm still listening to those records and being inspired by them and ending up making the records that I make.
It's amazing, isn't it, how those songs really stand the test of time. And I was talking to Chris before we came on about this segment that I do with the BBC called the Legends Launch.
Oh yeah.
Where you match up a musical legend with a brand new artist. And sometimes that's hard to do because you think, God, these acts, their songs really do stand up, and who are the next generation that are kind of standing up to that?
You have to think, I guess, when those legends were new, there were so many other new artists that respectfully didn't quite stand the test of time in the same way. So now we're just left with the legends, and we've got quite a few at this point from the sort of 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s. And yeah, now we're there'll be one or two from this time, and there'll be one or two from 10 years ago, and there'll be one or two from 10 years from now. And that's 6 that I've just sort of referenced, but then there'll be 60 that we truthfully not everybody can be sort of giant forever. But that sounds cool. That sounds like an interesting...
It's a cool idea. I'm wondering who we would match up with you. Is there anyone that you're like listening to at the minute where you're like, oh, I think we've got a little gem here?
What, like a new artist or an old one? Oh, wow. Good question. It's funny, some of the ones... Some of the answers to that question, they're like already massive artists, but I've just been doing this for sort of just over 10 years, and suddenly I'm like, just old. Really new, like really underground. Really underground.
Like anyone that you think, oh, I think you've got something, I can see you, really developing.
Well, I'll tell you this, right, and I'll just turn over my shoulder and glance at lovely Chris, and then I'll come back to you, and just because I'm going to embarrass him slightly, but he's got a brilliant artist called Ben. What's Ben's last name?
Ellis.
Ben Ellis, right?
Ben Ellis.
No joke, Chris showed me. So Ben is clearly incredibly talented and going to be a great artist and great songwriter and all of that, but he's been doing a cover from Greece.
From Greece, the film?
Which one? Hopelessly Devoted. Hopelessly devoted to you. I seen Chris show me him doing this cover. And I'm like, this lad knows something. He's got the right idea.
He's doing something that not everyone else is doing. Maybe not everyone's looking there for inspiration.
There is, he's got his own great material, but there is so much to be said for picking a good cover in the early days.
And a lot of people do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everybody tries. My whole experience as a sort of busker and playing open mic nights, and even like meeting my management and getting a record deal, it was like, show us your songs, and then it was always like a legit like bonus in the experience for everybody, me and them, if I could sort of throw a good cover in. So no, sorry, Ben. Yeah, Ben Ellis, absolutely.
Okay.
Let's.
Ben Ellis. So where can people find him? Is he on like Instagram?
He's everywhere, right?
He's got a website. He's got everything.
He's everywhere. Go and find him. I think he's on Spotify, right?
Ben Ellis. No pressure.
Let's do it, Ben.
You're our future legend.
We've
got to do it now.
Me and Ben actually had a little thing via Chris about FIFA. He thinks he can beat me.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit of an issue. We'll get to that.
We'll try to not judge you too harshly on your
We'll
FIFA
work
performances.
it out. You might actually beat me for all I know, but.
So speaking of performances, we're going to have a little look at some of the gorgeous gear that hopefully you're going to be taking on the road.
Yeah, that's the plan. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to nerd out for a little bit over the gear, and then we're going to talk about the new music.
Yeah.
Okay, so guitar number 1, James, talk us through this beauty.
I just had to check. It's a Gibson Les Paul Special, double cutaway, which is, I guess, if I'm looking for a special, I've always wanted the double cut. 2 P90s, very fun. Love P90s. This is a TV yellow. Doesn't look very yellow. That's because somebody covered it in red paint. So that sort of destroyed the price of it, which made it very affordable for little old me.
So where did you find this?
I found this in Nashville in the brilliant Carter Vintage. I love that shop so much. I found it in about 2016, maybe? Yeah. And I ended up writing quite a few songs from my second album on it. A song called Pink Lemonade was written on this guitar and recorded on this guitar. There's a lot of very sort of easy access, it's not a hard sort of guitar to play. We've got a big fun sound coming out of town. That's the bridge. Then it gets even, through this amp, it gets even sort of creamier. But then I guess, with a lot of these, like, you bring the volume down a bit, and you get that fun sort of cleanish. Should have tuned it. So yeah,
It's
big
definitely
fan.
got the creaminess.
It has, hasn't it?
I like that.
I think that's the amp as much as anything. But yeah, it feels good. Sounds good. I like this guitar, and it's it's from 1960. It's actually sort of old one.
So you got that from Carter's.
Yeah.
Now, if there's anyone that's listening and they're thinking, oh, I quite fancy getting into the vintage world, do you have any advice on what to look for?
This guitar, it's a good question. It's a good question. It's tough place, the vintage world. Everything's like sort of shot up, sort of post-pandemic, very expensive. But there are caveats, and there are sort of, like I said, like this was hanging in a rack with a bunch of other late 50s and 60s TV yellow Les Paul specials. All of them were original colours and everything, and they were like 35 grand. That's not how you get into vintage guitars, I don't think, unless you've got a massive wallet.
It's not your first move.
No, but this was covered in red paint, and it was like a fifth of that.
Yeah.
And
it's so different because of it.
It's got a good little story, and it's different, and it was, I don't know, it felt inspiring. I'm looking for something to feel inspiring, so I pick it up, and it might hit some cool sort of specification as an amazing sort of vintage instrument, but really just pick it up and see if it moves you.
Yeah.
And this one did that.
If it moves the needle, call the bank.
Yeah, call the bank.
Guys.
It's a difficult game, the vintage guitar thing, but like, it's all right. There's some amazing stuff out there.
And what's your opinion on, we're going to grab another beauty in a minute, things that are aged?
So this is aged for real in all its sort of ways. And I'm going to show you something in a minute that is not old, but looks very old. And my opinion is cool. If it looks cool, like, sure, there's the sort of potential moral dilemma of, but it didn't really get like run over by a car or like survive a storm. Never mind. Do you feel cool holding it? That's all that's important.
Do you look great, Barry?
Exactly.
Then buy it, you'll be fine.
Exactly.
Can you play a bit of, this is so fun, I could do like a little jukebox.
What do you want to hear?
Just a bit of something a bit out of character, a bit of Ace of Spades.
Well, yeah. That feels kind of right. It's either out of character, Yeah, I love all that.
Nice.
There you go.
Woo. Something a little bit different now, something a little bit heavy. How did you come to find this baby?
Well, I found it on Bleecker Street in Manhattan, on the Lower East Side. A great shop called Matt Umanov that doesn't exist anymore, sadly. I think they exist online, but they don't have their shop anymore. This is a National Resonator guitar. There's a lot of unbelievable old versions of these, but this one is new. And I just sort of, it's a real, like sonically, it's a very vivid colour. It really sort of rattles away. And I got it in about 2015, and I didn't ever sort of fully know what to do with it. But I absolutely kept it because I thought one day it'll sort of, make sense, and I'll know what to play it on or whatever. I tried writing on it a few times, which was always quite inspiring. And then we were in the studio making this album, this new album, and this song came up that we started. It was actually Mark, the engineer, on the record, played a bit of piano, and I said, "Wow, Mark, what was that?" He said he was just like getting up from having done a take. He's like, "I was just doing a thing," and I remembered it immediately. It was very brief and cool little thing that sort of went, and I thought, I like it, and I repeated it. All right, full chord. Add to these guys. And we started writing Up All Night, which became the sort of first song, but first single. But this was the guitar it was written on, and recorded on as well, which was a lot of fun.
And I think that's interesting what you say there about sonically having a different colour. We've also now given people another reason to buy new guitars because they're like, well, I need another colour sonically, I need to buy another one.
Yeah, no, it's...
But, if you're looking for something to kind of reinvigorate your writing or your style, picking up something like this can definitely do
Exactly, find something that's very different to what you've been using and give it a shot, see what it inspires. Picking this up immediately, it feels different in terms of the sort of way it sort of resonates as you hold it, and it of course sounds different. Play slide on it, feels really great. It's really fun. It's sort of built to do a bit of that as well. Old blues guys did a lot of that.
It's really cool to hear you play in a bluesy way, because obviously we know that it's such like a rootsy part of what
Oh yeah,
you
big
do.
time. No, it's. I mean, even on that song, "Up All Night," there's a big solo in the middle, which, well, I don't know. I'm trying to be bluesy, you know. Yeah, I was trying to be like heroes of mine, like Derek Trucks, I guess. You know, I love all that music, and I'm trying to sort of apply that to what I do now.
I feel like you would do a knockout version of Midnight in Harlem.
Oh, I love that song, yeah. Yeah, great tune. Yep.
I'm going to put that in as my request.
All right, nice.
For the Birmingham show.
Sure
if
thing.
That's okay. And
Very
we
cool.
want to see you all there on tour. You can come to the kind of more intimate shows in October.
Yeah.
Or if you want to be at Wembley,
Come to Wembley.
we'll be there,
Please.
glammed up. Can't wait to see you. But James, thanks so much for taking the time.
No
today.
trouble. Thank you so much.
And we'll see you all soon. Thank you.